Attention citizens, the annual purge is about to begin. Please lock all your doors and remain inside. May God be with you. Well, hello there, Beauts. Welcome back to my first video after Halloween. Now, this was supposed to actually come out at Halloween, but yeah, if you follow me, you'll know that I have a few issues. Excuse me. Technical issues and illness issues and a few other things that very much got in the way this Halloween. Anyway, back to the tutorial. So, I decided to make one of the masks from the Purge. I love the masks in the Purge. I think they're really iconic. And this one really caught my eye when I was doing my research. And with the latest film having come out recently, I thought it was quite relevant to do one of these masks. So here we go. So I basically bought a mask to use as a base, basically. It was a nice good quality one. In the past, when I've made masks on my videos, I've used those, you know, those cheap sort of blank faced plastic looking masks, but I decided to get a good quality one for this one because I wouldn't be building up anything on top of it, so I needed it to hold its shape and just generally be a bit more comfortable. So yeah, anyway, I started off by shaping the mask to make it look more like the mask in the film. So I cut the top off and then I drew the relevant features onto the mask. Now, the particular mask I've chosen to recreate today has got a kind of a cage-like look over the eyes. So I first tried to recreate that with paper clay like you saw me doing there, and then soon realised that was completely futile. It just wasn't working. So then I just decided to keep it simple for myself and create it using the offcuts from the mask. So here you just see me cutting out those shapes, and then I basically just glue them to the mask and then blend them a little bit with some silk clay, which you will see me doing in a moment. Now, I very quickly realised that trying to cut these holes out with a pair of scissors was not the one, so I quickly grabbed a craft knife. Please be very careful if you're using a craft knife at home. Do not cut yourself. We don't want any real blood going on in these making ofs. So yeah, so I cut all the holes out and then I glued them onto the mask using some PVA glue. Now, this mask, because it's not plastic, it's more like a sort of almost like a shaped pressed paper mache, so it's a lot easier to work with because it's easier to paint. It's got a slightly rough surface, so it takes the paint better, it takes glue better, and it's just better all around. So if you can afford to get a more expensive mask to use as your base, then do. I can't actually remember how much this one was because I bought it months ago, but I will see if I can find the details and I will put them below the video if I can. Snack time whilst I'm waiting for the glue to dry. So here you see me just applying those rolls or snakes of silk clay just to blend the eyes better into the rest of the mask, because on the actual mask itself it was actually part of the mask rather than just being pieces of card stuck on. I went in too thick with the silk clay. First of all, you really don't need very much. Now, silk clay, for those of you who don't know, is just very similar to sort of Crayola, what is wrong with me today? Crayola model magic, that kind of thing. So it's very cheap and you just shape it how you want and then leave it to dry, and that's it. Now it's time for painting. Now, for some reason I decided to paint the mask white, and I don't know why, because it was already white. So ignore that step and go on to the next step, which is to mix this kind of yellowy grey tone and go all over the mask. You want the mask to look kind of dirty and weathered and worn, because let's face it, if you're going on a purge killing spree, you're not going to be wearing a nice, clean, pristine mask. Well, I suppose you might do. It depends what kind of villain you are. But anyway, moving on. So I just took some acrylic paint and then just started painting in the black mouth area. I then mixed up another kind of dirty shade, sort of a darker shade of the base tone basically, and use this to start shading in the features on the mask. Now the masks that I'm using as a reference did actually have sort of built up cheekbones, but rather than kind of faffing around with trying to build it up with clay or what have you, which wouldn't really have worked that well, I decided to paint them on and kind of create an illusion. So I'm kind of using like sort of face painting techniques, if you like, to create the kind of the rounded cheeks and the other features on the mask, and it actually worked incredibly well, to the point where this mask was kind of sitting on my bedroom floor for quite a while after I did this. Don't judge me, I'm not the tidiest person in the world, and I kept kind of looking over at it and marveling and thinking it actually looks like it's got 3D cheeks. I mean, it doesn't at the moment, but you'll see once I've finished all the painting and the highlighting, then it really does work. So I just painted in the features very roughly, and then I just added a little bit more black to the mix just to deepen it, because you want to kind of create a gradient of colour, a bit like you do when you're painting your face or shading your eyes, just so you've got a kind of like a gradient shadow so it looks more realistic. I also stippled that dark tone all over the forehead just to add a little bit more sort of dirtiness and weathered appearance to the mask. And I used just some plain black to go around those sort of cage areas on the mask as well, just to add some depth there. I then took some white and started stippling that over that sort of distressed, dirty looking base. This kind of had the effect of making the colour look like it was kind of within the mask rather than just being painted and sitting on top. You know how similar to when you're doing, like, I don't know, some kind of zombie makeup or what have you, and you paint on like the darker undertones and then you stipple over the top to make it look like it's under the skin? Well, it's a similar technique here basically. So I just went all over the mask doing that. So you can see how that's really kind of starts to blend all that shading and everything together. And then I just mixed up a dark tone again with a little bit of yellow and brown, and just started re-emphasizing those shadows and deepening the very sort of deepest points of those again. Just painting in with a very fine brush and then blending with a fluffier brush. Now the reason you want to use a fine brush for these deeper shadow details is so you don't end up over shading and making it look muddy, which you really don't want. I use the same fine brush. Honestly, I swear to God, my mouth is just not working today. I use the same fine brush to paint on some kind of crinkly details and cracks and that kind of thing to make it look even more aged. And then I watered down that same dark colour and just went in with a fluffy brush and just stippled it on top to blend those darker shadows in and just create some more sort of dirty, distress looking areas on the mask. You can see it's really starting to come together now. I then went in with a lighter tone and just did that whole blending technique that I did earlier, where I stippled the lighter tone, a slightly watered down lighter tone, over the top of those dark tones just to knock them back a little bit and sort of blend them in with the rest of the tones. Adding some more cracks. And then just adding some more highlights where I felt it was needed. I'm not going to lie, you probably do need a little bit of artistic technique and ability to do a mask like this. But, you know, if you follow along with what I'm doing, then you should be able to recreate it pretty well. As you can see, I'm just sort of going back and forth between those darker shades and the lighter shades just to kind of get the depth and texture that I want, and it's really coming together. Now what really brings this mask fully together and makes it look really effective is the blood and the writing. So this mask had "Kiss Me" written across the forehead because, of course, if some raging maniac of a killer was coming towards you, the first thing you would want to do is kiss them. So I drew out the lettering first of all with a pencil, because obviously once you've gone in with the paint it's very difficult to remove it, whereas a pencil you can actually rub it off. I wrote in the lettering, and first of all I painted over it with just some basic red, and then I mixed a little bit of blue with that basic red to make more of a blood tone, and started stippling it over areas of the mask to create kind of blood splatters, as you can see. Now what really brought these blood splatters to life was stippling then over with that pure red lighter tone. This just really gave it some depth, and I did the same with the writing as well, using the dark tones and the lighter tones just to add a little bit of depth so it didn't look like I just got some red paint and painted it on. Can you see that's really made a difference? And also just kind of smudging those blood splatters as well really helped to add to the illusion. And then I just got a really dark black, almost pure black tone, and just went over some of the areas that I felt needed a little bit of extra depth. So I'm basically just kind of faffing around here, and then I am done. So that is the mask complete. So I hope you enjoyed this. Apologies that I didn't get it out in time for Halloween. I really did try my absolute best, but you know, there's always next year, and you know, there's always the horror cons, and you know, anybody who might just want to scare their friends, or just, you know, wear a mask on a day-to-day basis at home while you're washing up or what have you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me in the algorithm. The Facebook algorithm, YouTube algorithm doesn't like me very much at the moment, so give me a thumbs up, please. Help a girl out, and comment down below what you thought of this mask, and subscribe if you haven't already. Love you lots. See you next time.